I'm Carrie Peters, a recognized thought leader in the Microsoft Dynamics community and a Microsoft MVP for business applications. Welcome to the Get Your New View podcast. Keep listening to learn how we work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers that they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. In this next season of the Get Your New View podcast, I'd like you to meet even more members of our New View team who have brought examples of their favorite projects they've worked on with our customers to create efficiencies, utilize automation, and simply use even more of the features of their Business Central software. I'd like to welcome again to the podcast Robb Delprado, one of our senior consultants, and I've asked him to tell us a little bit about some of the sales projects he's worked on to help our customers with process improvement and how to utilize the system more fully. Robb, what kind of story have you brought for us today?
Well, it's a story about companies that grow and some of the pain points that they experience once they're growing and their employees are incurring more work. This company actually started out in NAV, and when they were in NAV, they were a small company that provided service. They had one location, and they basically did work for their customers, and they did some internal work for themselves. And they had an account analyst who would go out at the end of the month, look at these invoices that they had posted to the internal customer, and she would then do some reclassification because some of it was an expense and some of it was capitalized. And at the time, they just had this one location. But over time, they acquired a company, and then they expanded, and they had multiple locations out there. And as they grew and they went into Business Central, Sandy's job reclassifying things basically just exploded. She had 4 or 5 times the amount of work that was being done when she first went live on NAV. And in Business Central, it was just like forever to get through. And she had other accounts that she was trying to reconcile. Well, the controller brought me in and asked me to help Sandy fix her problem because it was so overwhelming at the end of the month. So we brainstormed for a little bit. Sandy was saying that she couldn't believe how successful the company was, but what that meant to her. And she was happy and sad at the same time because, nobody likes to work till midnight just trying to get their work done for month end. And she explained to me that she had basically pulled every invoice each month for this internal customer and put it into 2 sets of piles, one for the expense and one for the capitalized projects. And there weren't that many capitalized projects, but she still had to do the reclassification. So I talked to her about the upfront process. When the order takers were placing the order in the system, what they were doing. And she says, well, we did set up an internal customer, and we thought that would be sufficient. And we're posting it, we're using a payment method code that puts it to work in progress, and that that I have to clear that out at the end of the month. That works fine, except that the volume of work is just too much. So I said to her, well, what if we added extra payment method codes? And she's like, well, but the order takers really know up front what these work orders are for. So why don't we set up a new internal customer? I said, we can do that. And this way we can set up a new payment method code that goes directly to the expense account that you want. So you don't have to classify those. That way, you'll only have to look at those accounts that are going into the work in progress. And she said, that's really going to simplify my process because probably it's like a quarter to maybe a fifth of the total invoices. We've already cut down my work. I really like that a lot. So we did set up a new internal customer. We changed the payment terms code so that it would go to a expense account, the repairs and maintenance account. And then the other thing that was real critical was we went to the order takers and we explained to them that we have this new internal customer and that if it's an expense one, we actually named it expense account customer. And then on the other one, we said capital project so that they could easily see the difference in their lists. And that way the order takers were very happy to help Sandy get her work streamlined. And from there, we were able to, on a monthly basis, cut down the amount of work that Sandy was reclassifying. She was very happy because now she had more time to do her reconciliations of her other GL accounts. So she was thrilled with the ideas.
Yeah, fantastic. I like that involved a couple of different things, not only using some of the features that the system already have, but rearranging things a little bit so that we moved the process to a different department in part, further upstream where it made sense to make that decision. So I love seeing those kind of projects because that truly is taking the customer's situation from where they are today and figuring out how to adapt to match the pace of change that they're realizing as a company, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And getting everybody to buy off on the process was really a big key.
Yeah. I bet you had to involve a few people in those conversations so everyone understood why we were doing that and then, what the outcome was going to be. Fantastic. So when you go into a customer situation like we had with Sandy, what are the key things that you're really looking for with good potential? I know that there's a lot of features in the system that are underutilized. So payment method code is one of those. But I know that there are a few other things. What are the things that you look for improvement where it's pretty easy to outline how somebody could be using this feature to create more efficiency or automation in their system?
Well, I'm going to start with oversimplify. Mm-hmm. That's tax.
Yeah.
I've gone to a number of companies where they have two tax groups, taxable and non-taxable.
Yes.
And that is a big red flag because the auditors are going to come in, and if users are changing that flag from taxable to non-taxable, they're going to want to do an immediate audit of that area. And the soon as they find one exception, that's like they're just going to blow up the whole area and pull out more samples. So you really need to evaluate what your tax groups should be because not everything is taxable in the same state or not everything from state to state, and not everything is non-taxable from state to state. So you have to keep that in mind. And if you set those items up, it may mean that there's some extra tax groups out there, but the user shouldn't have to think about that. That's something that when they put this item or this resource on the line, it should automatically decide this is taxable at this rate or this is not taxable. And again, that's something that people tend to forget or they tend to underevaluate the importance of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing what's that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. No, that's okay. I really like the emphasis that you placed on that solution of use of default values instead of people having to figure it out. Anytime we have decision making involved, we have the possibility for more errors, which is exactly what you were talking about, that we could make errors that would come up in the audit that would cost the company some money and fines and penalties. So by having the system do the work with populating those default values, you're really future-proofing them against those kind of audit results.
Well, and default values, again, if they set up customer discount groups or item discounts, those are things, again, that the salesperson shouldn't have to spend a lot of time figuring out what price should I set. And that's the other thing. You want to establish what your prices are and let the salesman work easily in the system. If those things are set up correctly, he shouldn't have to think or readjust.
Yep, absolutely. No, I like that a lot. So one thing that you've mentioned to me before is that when we talk about sales in the system and sales orders, how that affects inventory tracking. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Sure. The big field on the sales order is the shipment date. So often people put a shipment date on that defaults from the system, meaning today's date. If I go out and put a new sales order in, it's going to use today's date as the shipment date. And most of the time, we're not delivering it today. If it's something that's not even in stock, we have a future date that's out there. And if we don't have it in stock, that means somebody has to purchase it. Requisition worksheet, it's looking at that shipment date and saying, oh, wow, this is something I've got to expedite because there's lead time out there. Nobody puts a purchase order in today for a sales order for today that's going to be delivered today. If you're ordering it, it's very unlikely that some hotshot's going to run it off to that customer. So again, the shipment date is critical on sales orders to determine when something is needed or when it's available. And again, they can go into the system if they're on that item and look at it, or they can even add a fact box that shows availability that's out there on when that is truly available. And here's the thing, if you're using the right shipment date, if you're looking at your availability, you're going to have a more happy customer that you're selling to because you're giving him a more accurate date.
Yep.
And again, happy customers are ones that come back and buy from us again.
Absolutely. I love that, Rob. Well, this has been a great example, and what a nice list of the type of things that you look for with those kind of projects. As you think about what customers might need to do to prepare for a project like this, where they might call and say, hey, we'd like to have somebody take a look at our sales process, what are the kind of things that those customers can do to get ready for that kind of assessment or evaluation?
Well, they can have a list of things that they would want to make sure we're doing, like how are they posting revenue? Is it needed to be by location? Is there an office code or a branch code that we need to make sure is getting validated correctly? Are there special prices that are out there for special customers? Who are their customers that they need these special prices for, or what are the special prices that they want to offer for specific items? If they have that all lined up, then when we come in, we can quickly go through the process of setting up these discounts, either on the customer side or on the item side. And then, verifying that we're using the right setups, because we could easily, if there are multiple locations, we can always set up responsibility centers that pull in the extra office code or branch code that they need to capture the revenue in the right bucket. And then again, are they correctly categorizing the type of sale? Yep. So those are the things. If they have that stuff set aside and established in lists of what they want to get done, it makes it easier for us.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things that I really like about working with you on these kind of projects, Rob, is that one of the first things you'll do is you'll go through and, understand what the basics are, but then go through and prioritize. What is the thing that is going to have the biggest impact right away? And how are you going to work through all those additional things over time to put together a complete package of improvement? So that's a great method that we use with our customers in order to make sure that we can deliver a whole lot of results in a short period of time.
Yes, and I like how we can follow up with them afterwards with the priorities and say, okay, we've gotten this one done. Are we ready for that one? And let them maybe after the first priority is done, they recognize that there is something that needs to change somewhere else, and then we can reorganize. Yeah.
And that's a very important point that, as you illustrated at the beginning of the story, change happens all the time with companies. So the level of work or the complexity of work, the people that we're working with, all of that changes over time, and we need to adapt to that continually. So the process that we use with finding ways to improve that takes that change management and pace of change into consideration, so that we're making sure that those changes are easily adopted by your organization, and it's easy for folks to stick with those changes.
Yes, and it never hurts to follow up with them.
Yep, absolutely. Any last thoughts that you'd like to share with the listeners about the sales process and what we can do to help them?
I just want to encourage them that when they're using sales, to keep in mind that the contacts and the relationship management functionality is certainly a key add-on that they can take advantage of down the road.
Fantastic. And I hear we've got another episode coming up talking specifically about some of the advantages that they have with that area of the system as well. Well, thank you very much, Rob, for being with us today to share your story.
Have a good day, Carrie.
I'm Carrie Peters. Thank you for tuning in to the Get Your New View podcast. For more episodes like this on YouTube, click the subscribe button and ring the bell to ensure that you get notified whenever new content comes out. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please share an honest review on Apple Podcasts. If you are ready to rethink today for tomorrow, look for the link below and contact us to speak with our expert team. You won't find the level of no-nonsense real-world experience we offer anywhere else, and we're here to put that experience to work for you. Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you suspect there just has to be a better way and you don't know what it is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started.